this is episode 6, June 1st, 2021. And we're beginning on page 20 of the physical copy, which you should all get, of the Anarchist Handbook, organized by Michael Malice. Buy this book, read it around the campfire. So we're starting another episode in chapter 3, Max Stirner, from The Ego and His Own, 1844. As always, I apologize for any stumbles, fumbles, spin-outs. And I'll just go ahead and start reading. So this is 10 minutes reading the Anarchist Handbook. He who, to hold his own, must count on the absence of will in others is a thing made by these others, as the master is a thing made by the servant. If submissiveness ceased, it would be over with all lordship. The own will of capital me is the state's capital S destroyer. It is therefore branded by the state as self-will. Own will and the state are powers in deadly hostility, between which no eternal peace is possible. As long as the state asserts itself, it represents own will, its ever hostile opponent, as unreasonable evil. And the latter lets itself be talked into believing this. Indeed, it really is such, for no more reason than this, that it still lets itself be talked into such belief. It has not yet come to itself and to the consciousness of its dignity. Hence, it is still incomplete, still amenable to fine words. Every state is a despotism, be the despot one or many, or, as one is likely to imagine about a republic, if all be lords, that is, despotize one over another. For this is the case when the law given at any time the expressed volition of, it may be, a popular assembly, is thence forced to be law for the individual, to which obedience is due from him or toward which he has the duty of obedience. If one were even to conceive the case that every individual in the people had expressed the same will, and hereby a complete collective will had come into being, the matter would still remain the same. Would I not be bound today and henceforth to my will of yesterday? My will would, in this case, be frozen, wretched stability, my creature, to wit, a particular expression of will, would have become my commander. But I, in my will, I, the creator, should be hindered in my flow and my dissolution. Because I was a fool yesterday, I must remain such my life long. So in the state life, I am at best, I might just as well say at worst, a bondman of myself, because I was a willer yesterday. I am today without will, yesterday voluntary, today involuntary. How change it? Only be recognizing no duty, not binding myself, nor letting myself be bound. If I have no duty, then I know no law either. But they will bind me. My will nobody can bind, and my disinclination remains free. Why, everything must go topsy-turvy if everyone could do what he would. Well, who says that everyone can do everything? What are you there for, pray, you who do not need to put up with everything? Or you who do not need to put up with everything. Defend yourself, and no one will do anything to you. He who would break your will has to do with you and is your enemy. Deal with him as such. If there stand behind you for your protection some millions more, then you are an imposing power and will have an easy victory. But even if as a power you oversaw your opponent, still you are not on that account a hallowed authority to him, unless he be a simpleton. He does not owe you respect and regard, even though he will have to consider your might. We are all accustomed to classify states, again, capital S there, according to the different ways in which the supreme might is distributed. If an individual has it, monarchy. If all have it, democracy, etc. Supreme might then, might against whom? Against the individual and his self-will. The state practices violence. The individual must not do so. The state's behavior is violence, and it calls its violence law. That of the individual, crime. Crime then, so the individual's violence is called. And only by crime does he overcome the state's violence when he thinks that the state is not above him, but he is above the state. And I have to pause, because I just need a quick sip of water. Apologize for that. Now, where were we? But he is. Okay, I apologize. I'm back on it. Now, if I wanted to act ridiculously, I might, as a well-meaning person, admonish you not to make laws which impair my self-development, self-activity, self-creation. I do not give this advice, for if you should follow it, you would be unwise, and I should have been cheated of my entire profit. I request nothing at all from you, for whatever I might demand, you would still be dictatorial lawgivers, and must be so, because a raven cannot sing, nor a robber live without robbery. Rather, do I ask those who would be egoists what they think the more egoistic, to let laws be given them by you, and to respect those that are given, or to practice refractionists, yes, complete disobedience. Good-hearted people think the laws ought to prescribe only what is accepted in the people's feeling as right and proper. But what concern is it of mine when it is accepted in the nation and by the nation? The nation will perhaps be against the blasphemer, therefore a law against blasphemy. Am I not to blaspheme on that account? Is this law to be more than an order to me? I put the question. Solely from the principle that all right and all authority belong to the collectivity of the people, do all forms of government arise. For none of them lacks this appeal to the collectivity, and the despot, as well as the president, or any aristocracy, acts and commands in the name of the state. They are in possession of the authority of the state, and it is perfectly indifferent whether, were this possible, the people as a collectivity, as in all individuals, exercise this state authority, or whether it is only the representatives of this collectivity, be there many of them as in aristocracies, or one as in monarchies, always the collectivity is above the individual, and has a power which is called legitimate, which is law. Over against the sacredness of the state, the individual is only a vessel of dishonor, in which exuberance, malevolence, mania for ridicule, and slander, frivolity, are left as soon as he does not deem their object of veneration, the state, to be worthy of recognition. The spiritual haughtiness of the servants and subjects of the state has fine penalties against unspiritual exuberance. When the government designates as punishable all play of mind against the state, the moderate liberals come and opine that fun, satire, wit, humor must have free play anyhow, and genius must enjoy freedom. So not the individual man indeed, but still genius is to be free. Here the state, or in its name the government, says with perfect right, he who is not for me is against me. Fun, wit, etc., in short, the turning of state affairs into a comedy, have undermined states from of old. They are not innocent, and further, what boundaries are to be drawn between guilty and innocent wit? At this question, the moderates fall into great perplexity, and everything reduces itself to the prayer that the state government would please not be so sensitive, so ticklish, that it would not immediately scent malevolence in harmless things, and would in general be a little more tolerant. Exaggerated sensitiveness is certainly a weakness. Its avoidance may be praiseworthy virtue. But in time of war, one cannot be sparing, and what may be allowed under peaceable circumstances ceases to be permitted as soon as a state of siege is declared. Because the well-meaning liberals feel this plainly, they hasten to declare that, considering, quote, the devotion of the people, there is assuredly no danger to be feared. But the government will be wiser and not let itself be talked into believing anything of the sort. It knows too well how people stuff one with fine words, and will not let itself be satisfied with the Barmecide dish. And that's the conclusion for this evening. Apologize for the big break in the middle. I'm not even going to bother editing that out. If you watch this far, you know that. And we got to the end of page 22, again, of Michael Malice's The Anarchist Handbook. And I'm cold reading this with you, so I actually go back and listen, because when you're trying to read this and your mind has been opened, shall we say, you're simply trying to just put it out there into words. So I'm not trying to read anything into this. I'm literally just trying to read it. And it's a challenging read. And hopefully by the time I get to the end of this fabulous book, I will have conquered some of the demons and move forward. The black flag comes in many colors.